Hi guys, and welcome back to another DrAce video, and today we're going to be playing Ride 4, and we are going to be doing another top 10 list. We are going to be doing the bikes from the 501cc's up to the 750cc's. I'm looking forward to this one because there is some absolutely fantastic motorcycles within this list, so prepare yourself, buckle down, and get your notepad out because I'm sure you're about to make yours as well. So here we have our first bike on the list, number 10, Patton S1R Lightweight Race Edition, used by Michael Dunlop in 2019. Fantastic bike that definitely deserves this list, and allow me to show you exactly why, because here in the track of Intramonajo or Imatra, this handles it really well. The bike has a little bit of a tendency to wheelie if you're not using anti-wheelie, of course. I'm not actually using anti-wheelie. TCS is also turned off for this particular video, but I must confess I do really enjoy this track and bike combination. It's something I'm definitely going to have to revisit after this video. It's certainly a very, very enjoyable, but the Patton I've used a couple of times, especially for videos in the Southern 100, and I think even in the Northwest 200 as well. I rather enjoyed them. I remember doing them quite a while ago, actually, I do believe, so it's been a while since the Patton got some love from DrAce. But on this video, it got number 10 out of the top 10 list, so you can't complain on that, because any bike that makes the top 10 on any of DrAce's lists is a bloody good bike, let me tell you. Unless it's the dubious honour of being number 1 spot on my top 5 worst bikes, which we all know which bike that was. But we're not talking about god-awful bikes, we're talking about stunners, we're talking about fantastic bikes, and this, of course, as mentioned, well deserves the top 10 spot. Very easy to control, pretty good in the sense of acceleration. It does give you a bit of torque, a bit of power, I will not lie to you, but it's also very, very reliable. In the races I've ever done with it, I've felt really good on board the motorcycle. A few minor caveats compared to some of the other bikes. It does feel a little bit bulky every now and again, maybe not as nimble, but the brakes are solid. Acceleration's good, and sometimes you can pop some pretty good wheelies as well on board the Patton. So overall, definitely deserves a spot on my top 10. Getting a little bit out of shape there into the final corner, or at least the final part of the actual corner before we go into a small little king here to the left. Pretty solid bike overall. I'm happy with it on number 10, hope you are too. If you agree or disagree, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below. But that is a lap time of Imatra done with the Patton. Now on to number 9, that is the MV Agusta F750 RM. I'm actually surprised how good this bike is. I totally forgot about this bike. I'm sure I've had opportunities to use it recently, and I think I did. I want to say I did in a recent live stream, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But I do really like this motorcycle. I think it's a great bike. 170 miles done on this bike, so it's clearly one I've used quite a lot. There are a few bikes on this one I didn't even realise how high my affinity was with them, because it's just been quite rare for me to get a chance to use those particular bikes again. But the F3675 is excellent. It's a very, very nimble bike. You can throw it around anywhere you want, to be quite honest with you. You could go in any track and you'll have a good time with this bike. Sometimes it does feel a little bit power hungry on the front. And I did have a couple of wheelies when I was recording this particular video, and I was like, oh, that's a bit ugly. I don't think I'll be showing that for the particular video, but I'm still very happy with the MV Agusta, and I will definitely be using it a little bit more often from now on, because it just tackled Imola so well. And of course, if you've used Imola before, which I'm guessing you have, I'm pretty certain you must have played Imola by this point, it's extremely bumpy, and this bike did feel all the bumps. It did certainly get out of shape a couple of times, but it still felt good. And there is another big chunky wheelie coming out of the corner that I can never seem to pronounce the name for, so I'm going to avoid the embarrassment here today. But we're now going into Variante Alta for the left-hand side, and that is a pretty tight apex for you. I was actually concerned about the braking power of this MV Agusta before I did this video, because I thought it had a little bit of an issue, but it doesn't. It definitely doesn't. It's an absolute beast on the brakes. Brakes even a little bit too early for the left-hander for Rivazza. Very solid motorcycle. Very, very powerful. I would definitely say that. And I think the mistakes are easy to be made on this bike, but you have a great time with it. So for me, I like that chance of a possible crash every now and again, and I like the way the MV Agusta handles, so the F3675 definitely deserved number 9 on this list. So we now move over to number 8, and we have the Honda VFR 750R RC30 EM from 1988. Now, I went for the EM version of this one because I did find that the acceleration, the brakes, the smoothness, and just the more enjoyable experience was with the EM rather than the standard version. I think you're going to find that with a couple of bikes, that the EM is a little bit better. It's tuned in such a way that's a bit more easier to ride. Doesn't apply to every single bike, but I do feel this way with the EM. And of course, sporting the livery made by Sergio23 when it was the 11th DrAce Time Trial Challenge. So going back a while now, but a gorgeous livery, and it definitely deserves a spot. And don't get me wrong, just because it has this wonderful livery does not mean it deserves a spot automatically, because there's actually some better liveries that you guys have made, and I did want to put them in, but then I realised it's about the bike, not the livery. Maybe that's for another video, another day, but handles extremely well. I'm really happy with the Honda VFR, and it definitely deserves a spot on this list. It was one of the first bikes I thought of when I was considering doing this list in the first place. So I'm pretty happy with the results. I do think it deserves number 8 on the list. I did toy with putting it higher up, but honestly, all the bikes in this list and the next couple of ones you're going to see are all fantastic. So it's like picking your favourite child at this point, your favourite cat. It's too hard. So as far as I'm concerned, happy with number 8 on the list. I think it's a fantastic bike. If you've never used it, take this video as a recommendation. But we are going to complete the Canadian Tire Grand Prix, and we're going to move on to number 7, and that being the Ducati Monster 696 from 2014. A bike that I never really used before until a video a couple of days ago. I was reading the comments, and Nibbling, I've forgotten the name, my apologies, it was Nibble something, suggested, or at least we discussed, using a Ducati Monster. And honestly, this bike is great. I used it in Manicours where we had a fantastic ride, and I've had to come here and chuck it into a track such as Kanto South Course, and this bike is this good that this one lap that I'm about to do now got me a world record on Kanto South. This bike is awesome. I really like this one, and yes, you're probably thinking, why isn't it higher up on the list? But as already mentioned, it's very difficult to choose between the next couple of bikes, and I think because the Ducati is a newish bike to me, I've not really used it before, apart from the Manicours video, I can't really put it higher up in that because I need more time with it. The Ducati is great. The Monster handles extremely well. It does feel a little bit sluggish sometimes for some reason, but I just think that's its low acceleration. But I'm not entirely sure. It's a great bike. I have no complaints with the Ducati Monster 696. It's absolutely fantastic. But yes, as mentioned before, this is a world record lap. If you want to tackle it with the Ducati Monster, I'm guessing you can beat it because I only did the one lap. So I didn't really have much chance to actually improve the lap. I just did the one and done, if you will. So if you want to try and beat it, go ahead, be my guest. But I digress. The Ducati is fantastic. It looks absolutely gorgeous. It's a stunning motorcycle, and it handles great. You can't really ask much more for that. I probably shouldn't judge bikes by their looks as well on these lists, but this is my top 10 list, so I guess my rules, my show, if you want to say so. But if you want to change anything on your list, go ahead. Let me know in the comment section down below of your top 10 list for the 501cc's up to 750. But now we're getting into the top 6. So now into 6th place we have the Suzuki GSXR750 RM. Now with this one, it's very similar to the Honda. I did have a choice between choosing the standard or the race modified or endurance modified version. This one for me, the race modified version, does have the little bit of an edge to the standard bike. Now actually Sergio has made both liveries for both bikes, so it was difficult to choose from that sense as well, but I just really like the RM version. I think it handles extremely well, this one being from a previous DrAce Time Trial Challenge from the other one as well, and I just think it's really good. It's a very easy bike to use. It's not as comfortable as I would have thought it would be in the sense of just chucking it around left, right and centre, but it's very stable. And I think when you're looking at bikes, and each bike has its own characteristic, even in the video game format, sometimes I'm fancying a bike that's a bit loose, and sometimes I want a bike that's just going to make sure it holds my hand and gets me to the finish line without any hiccups, and the Suzuki definitely does that. A very easy bike to use. I would definitely recommend it as a beginner's bike, which is going to be a list at some point, so I'm guessing the Suzuki GSXR750 will make that particular list, but it's a great bike, it really is. I think it looks stunning as well, so, and with the added livery it looks even better of course, but it tackles the outer course of Utah pretty well. Now this track is a very difficult one for keeping the tyres cold, or at least keeping the tyres optimum temperature, and the Suzuki did struggle with this one, but I think I was running soft tyres. I don't really remember, maybe I just jumped it on and went for medium tyres, I don't really recall. I was just quickly recording what I needed to do and get the order done, because otherwise I will spend too much time on Ride 4 and probably not end up recording anything. So that's the important part about this video, was getting it done. So unfortunately I didn't get a chance to spend doing fast lap times or making sure my riding looked absolutely brilliant like I usually try to do. It was just a case of getting the laps done, getting back to Vegas Pro 17 and editing this particular video. Of course, if you are enjoying this particular content, be sure to hit the like button and consider subscribing as well. Got a lot more top 10 videos and just a lot more Ride 4 videos in general coming very soon. So now we start the top 5 with Kawasaki Ninja's ZX7 RM from 1996. So again, as mentioned earlier, this one is an endurance modified bike, and then let me tell you, it handles absolutely beautifully. This is a particular livery from Sergio23, who made it for another ace in the name of Andy Yates, who's part of our Ride 4 MotoGP Championship and has been a long time subscriber. So I also like this extra addition of including the aces in this one as well. Of course, Sergio makes many of my liveries and he does a good job at them, so why not show them off in this video as well. But getting back to the bike and its way without actually talking about the livery for a change, the bike is fantastic. It handles so well, smooth acceleration, good top speeds, very good on the brakes. It was even better than I expected. I actually braked a little bit too early sometimes, and I'm also going to make a bit of a mistake coming up in a moment's time, and just look how the Ninja handles it. It's just a brilliant bike, it really is. It really holds your hand, but also gives you a bit of scares every now and again. So going into the right-hander, practically down. God bless Kawasaki Ninjas with Andy Yates' number on, saving the ace from crashing there on the right-hander. Not even Marquez could have saved that, and not even Johnny Ray on his particular Kawasaki. Only DrAce can on board the ZX7 RM. That's so many R's in one sentence, isn't it? But it's great. I really like this particular Kawasaki. I think it's fantastic. Used it once or twice online. Used it a lot in my time with the endurance races. Before I really started to record a lot of content, this was my go-to bike whenever doing the endurance races all the time. Every single time I would use a particular bike, I thought it was fantastic. Handles so good, and just a really enjoyable motorcycle to use all in all. So for me, massive thumbs up. Love the Kawasaki Ninja ZX7 RM, and totally deserves top 5 on this list. But now, into the top 4, we have a Yamaha with the longest name in the world, the Yamaha FZR750 RM. And of course, with a Wayne Rainey livery from Suzuki in an endurance race. Thanks to Mad Max for making this particular livery. He did an outstanding job, even made a helmet and suit to match like an absolute legend. But I will tell you, this is not about the livery. As awesome as it is, it's absolutely fantastic. I made a video on this one, so if you want to see the livery in a better view or a better angle, check out that video. But this bike is an absolute beast. Now, I've chosen Interlagos because when we did an online stream a few days ago, we did race here in Interlagos, and I've actually probably already seen the clip that I did of this particular video, because this Yamaha is a beast. It is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, you can make a couple of mistakes with it, but it is really smooth. The acceleration is fantastic. I didn't really find myself wheeling too much. I felt the brakes were fantastic, very strong, very firm. Just a really solid bike, honestly. The change of direction handles it like a pro. There's not one thing that this bike can't do, and seeing how competitive it was against the other endurance modified bikes when we streamed a few days ago, wow. This is the endurance bike to beat. I'm telling you, it's so good. I'm really impressed with it. I really am. I think it's one of the best bikes in the game. Definitely deserves higher up in the list, but I've used the other ones a little bit more, and I just can't move them from this one. But if I'd used this a little bit more, this probably would have made my top 10 bike list in general, not just to this category. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I'll say it now, if I do an endurance modified video, this bike will be number 1. Let me tell you, it's fantastic. Massive thumbs up from me. But we now go to the podium, and it's time for number 3's Kawasaki Ninja ZX6R from 2019. Now, this bike had to take a break for a while because unfortunately it was bugged on PC, and I think everywhere as well, even on consoles, and you couldn't use it. The bike would just spontaneously crash every now and again. So this bike totally deserves number 3 on my list. I do believe I have maximum affinity with the next 3 bikes coming up, or at least very close to. Can't remember exactly if that's true or not, but I do believe this one is maximum affinity. Another bike that I used to death when I first started this game. I used this Ninja so much when I wasn't recording and just playing and racing on my own. When I started doing the content, I decided I must use different bikes, and this was one of the bikes that, honestly, I had kind of forgotten about. I really had forgotten about how amazing this particular bike is, and knowing that the issues that plagued it with a previous update where the bike would just spontaneously crash and just completely just fly out your hand sometimes, I just stopped using it entirely, and I never even considered using it until recently when I jumped on a previous stream and I thought, oh my god, this is an absolute hidden gem of a bike. Where did it go? And the reality is it never went anywhere. It's just I stopped using it, and I think I'm going to have to get this bike back out the garage or the virtual garage and start using it. Look how good it tackles Cadwell Park. I mean, is there anything else you want me to say about this bike than just gush over this bike and Cadwell Park? A combination for the aces, if I do say so myself. Amazing bike, handles everything really well, brakes, stability, acceleration, torque, power, everything. It's just a terrific bike. Massive props for this particular Ninja. Definitely use it if you haven't used it already. But now, on to the top two. Our penultimate choice is the Triumph Daytona 675 R. Let me tell you, this bike is fantastic. It's one of my favourite bikes in the game. It made my top 10 list because it handles everything so good. Might not be as quick and as sharp as the Kawasaki Ninja we've just looked at, but this one is really stable. This is a bike I feel confident with on any track. I don't feel like I'm going to crash when using the Triumph Daytona. It's just one of those bikes I feel good with. I think the acceleration is smooth. The brakes are to die for. I love the brakes on this bike. You can literally slam it on, full rear brake, full front brake, and you will never crash. It just feels so good. I love this bike so much. The brakes are fantastic on it. The brakes are definitely the high point of the bike. As I mentioned just a moment ago, it's not as quick and not as nimble as the Kawasaki Ninja that we just taken a look at, but the brakes kind of outweigh it for me. As a rider who loves getting people on the brakes, and I've really focused a lot of attention on braking rather than some of the other movements that I guess I'm good at as well, but the brakes, that's important to me. I love the brakes, and having good solid brakes on a bike such as the Triumph Daytona, it's a perfect combination for me. And if you did happen to take a tally of how many times I said brakes there in that particular segment, let me know in the comment section down below. But I will mention this because it's my top 10. This is being my choice with the particular bike. The reason why as well is that this suits my needs. So a little bit of advice I could give you guys as well if you're starting out. Find a bike that suits your needs. Find a bike that suits you rather than what everyone else is telling you to choose. That's what I tend to prefer. I like picking my own bikes and finding that I'll do better with the bikes I've chosen rather than just being the fastest bike. But I digress, because we now need to take a look at the number one choice on my list, and that being the Yamaha YZF R6 from 2015. Now, first things first, look at that bike. It is absolutely gorgeous, from the livery to the design to the shape. It's amazing, and the bike handles and feels as good as it looks. It's almost the perfect motorcycle. I don't think I can really mention something that's bad with it. And honestly, for me, it's a very similar story with the Triumph Daytona. I would say this bike does everything that the Triumph Daytona 675R did, but does it better. The R6 is just the ultimate 500 to 750cc motorcycle for me. It is fantastic. And the Yamaha R6 suits me down to the ground perfectly. It's got the brakes that I desire, the stability under braking is also there, the acceleration is great. I'm not even running electronics on this bike and it still handles extremely well. I just have tons of confidence with the R6. I think it's fantastic. I really do. Now, there's different R6s to choose from, but the one from 2015 for me is just my favourite. It's just so good. It was the very first bike that I maximised the affinity with. That is how important this R6 has been in my journey on Ride 4. I absolutely love it, and in a way I kind of miss using it because I've not really used it in quite a while, but I always think about it every time I go on there, maybe have a little look around it. But honestly, this bike definitely deserves the brand new DrAce stamp of approval. Bang! Thank you, Sergio23, for making that particular stamp. It looks awesome. But that is it from me, so I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave more suggestions, and of course, if you want to join the Discord server, you can do by following the link in the description down below. But upon that note, guys, thanks for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it, and subscribe as well if you haven't already. Ciao for now. Oh, hi! Didn't quite see you there. Good to see you're still here. If this video didn't quite set your appetite, then why not watch some more DrAce content by clicking the video shown on screen now. Furthermore, if you would like to follow me on social media, you can do so now with the links down in the description. Consider subscribing so you don't miss a single DrAce video.